Hi, it's me, Jamie Tomey with Artist Book House. Welcome to our conversation series where we speak with bookish people about all kinds of bookish things. Today I'm joined by Jen Thomas, who lives in Richmond, Virginia. Jen is an artist, designer, educator, and writer, as I said, in Richmond, Virginia, and is currently the Book Arts Program Director at University of Richmond. So how did you become a book artist? What led you to this field particularly?
So I have a background in illustration. I have a degree in illustration from Virginia Commonwealth University, and then also have a minor in painting and printmaking. So I was really excited about the idea of storytelling. And I had been, of course, storytelling with just prints and drawings for so long, and decided that I needed to change pace. So I wanted to leave Richmond, and I was looking at Chicago. And then I found Columbia, and I found Columbia through one of the community events. I think they probably had like a big book sale, or it might have been an open house. So I went to an open house and then I went, oh my gosh, this is the place. This is where I need to go. Because I knew that I had also been writing. And so I wanted to find a way where I could merge that sort of image making and writing into one thing. Yeah, it was a brand new move to that space. And it just blew me away, just in terms of the studio spaces. I'd never made paper before. I had minimal bookmaking experience, no letterpress experience. So I had done other kinds of printmaking. So I feel like I came with really no idea how to do any of the things.
Oh, and
Yeah.
you learned it all. I
You
love
did.
that. I love that. Let's do a screen share of your slides.
This was one of the first books that I made at Columbia as part of my grad program. So I started taking a Japanese papermaking class and really just started to play with combining alternative image transfer methods, which is how the text is on there, using Xerox transfer, and then using just basic photocopies and actually embedding them into the handmade paper. And this is sewn with a traditional Japanese stab binding, but I sort of modified it and started to create what I call a cascading book with it by alternating it. So it kind of creates a bit of an accordion fold when it opens up. So you can actually hang it. So you can, that's one of the issues when it comes to making artist books. If you're using a codex form, it's like, how do you exhibit them? How do you make it so that people can actually view more than just a 2-page spread? So that was kind of my first foray into really thinking about alternative book structures that still, told stories. So I was trying to figure out how to break out of the codex form for that. So there was a huge ice storm in Western North Carolina, and it just coated everything. Like everything was encased in ice, and it was beautiful, but also pretty destructive because a lot of the roads were closed. But I felt like it made for a really memorable landscape when I was going to visit family. Yeah, I was really excited that printmaking, especially lithography, was being offered as part of the program, because I could really look at printmaking and storytelling in a different way and start to think about how I could incorporate these methods into bookmaking. So this is a piece called For Rent, and it's actually a board game. So I think by the time I made this, I had lived with something like 20 different roommates in 10 or 12 different apartments. Like I started grad school in my late 20s. So I'd had a lot of roommates by that point.
Yeah.
And dealt with a lot of crazy apartment issues, neighbor issues. And so I put all of these stories into this board game, and it folds up and it's held together with magnets, and then you just sort of open it up. The story doesn't ever start in the same way, which is what's great, I think, about a board game, is that you have a different outcome every single time. So the story changes every single time. And this one combines letterpress printing and silkscreen printing, and of course some tiny little things that are made for doll houses and all kinds of other stuff. So.
And what was the edition of this?
10.
10.
Yeah. So edition of 10. I think of 5 of which have actually been assembled. So.
Yeah.
Out there.
I mean, that's how it goes.
Yep. Yeah. It's pretty labor intensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after I made this one, I started thinking about how to go bigger, and also what other stories had started to dominate my life. And that's when everyone I knew was getting married. So at that time, I think I went to 5 weddings in one summer.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about the wedding industry, what it means, how I feel about marriage. Also, I'm not married. Partners.
What? Congratulations.
So, I have never, I just, it doesn't, that aspect of the tradition doesn't really matter to me. So I was just really fascinated, and I kind of interviewed other people. I did a lot of historical research about marriage. And so all of the fun facts that are like on the sides that are blind embossed into the side of the cake are essentially like wedding statistics, like how many 50% of all, I think at that point, like American marriages had ended in divorce. So, really kind of thinking through what the average cost of an American wedding was, which I think at the time, this was from 2004, it was $20,000. So I just kept thinking, oh my God, that's grad school tuition for like.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kept thinking about, whoa, this is huge. And so as I went through, I put all of these different cards, so they go to different sections. So of course you've got the husband hunt, which ends up being like the largest portion of your life, I guess. The wedding planning, and then the big day, and then I have these little brides and grooms that I got from a train supply. So they're HSA train pieces, and for the most part, like again, this is a viewpoint from a cis hetero marriage viewpoint. But then there are also issues in there about like different marriage laws based on different states or different countries. So of course, if you were gay, you are barred from getting married in certain places. So thinking about that, moving into it too, like who is marriage for ultimately, and what does it mean? And this is all handmade paper. It's a combination of cotton and abaca, and the cards and the money, they're photocopied. So I kind of used a combination.
Yeah, different ways of printing. And the pink that you have on there was screen printing, or is that?
That was letterpress printed. So everything.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, everything on here was letterpress printed. And I think I have about 4 assembled at this point. Assemble on demand is essentially what I do.
Yeah.
And so I love the process of making the things and the idea generation, because one of these pieces takes, 9 months to a year to actually make from idea to finished product. And then maybe 40 hours to actually assemble a book. There will be some years where I'll make literally one thing or one drawing, and then some where I'll make, 2 or 3 different bodies of work. So it really just depends on where my brain is at. This year, my brain has not been interested in making work, but
of course. Yeah,
I've developed this structure a little bit further. I made these at Women's Studio Workshop on a fellowship, and so this is all handmade paper. It's a combination of cotton and abaca. The imagery is primarily silkscreen. There might be some photocopy transfer in there as well, but really just kind of thinking about, these are short pieces of fiction. So really, I just started thinking about landscapes. I really like I'm one of those people that I really like driving across country. I just, that's really good brain space for me. So I was driving from Chicago to New York. And as I was driving, I was passing through landscapes in Pennsylvania. And it was just really, I think it really sparked some ideas for me in terms of sense of place or sense of home. And started creating these books. And so I created 2 of them as part of this workshop. And this structure actually shows up a little bit later on. I worked with some folks at U of R to do a similar structure as well. So I just keep coming back to this structure because I like the fact that you can see it all at once.
Yeah. And so this was a combination of pulp painting with silkscreen, it looks like?
Yeah. So the sheets of paper essentially are built. So all of the bits of fibers are actually embedded in the paper. So that's part of the paper making process. So any of the color that you see that's added, that's all paper, and anything that's black, that was either silkscreen printed or transfer. I think most of these are silkscreen printed, and I played around with silkscreen printing on several different sheets of paper. So I'd have like lots of different paper options and then just see what worked best for the story as I went through. So not the best in terms of, use of silkscreen in terms of creating, I can make 100 copies of these. I was thinking more about what do I want the final book to look like? Right. So I've got a lot of extras of each of these panels that were like the ones that I didn't think worked as well for the book. I save all my process work because I know that I might go back to it later on. And it's good too, if I get into like a creative rut, I can actually go back into that stuff and start to see what kind of ideas that sparks. Do I want to revisit an idea? Does it spark a new idea jumping off from that? As I said before, a lot of my extended family is from Western North Carolina, and I got away from the mountains as quickly as possible. So, you know, I went to Richmond, which is a fairly metropolitan area, and then moved to Chicago after that. And so every time I would go to visit my relatives, and particularly my grandmother, they like, the more we go visit her, she lived in a house, but like all of her extended family just slowly would put trailers up on her property. And so we'd go and we'd be like, oh, Dwight's got a trailer over there. Oh, he's raising pheasants this year. Like, you know, like Marie has her trailer on the property. And so it was just really fascinating to me that her family was so close. So all of these family members lived, you know, feet away from her. And so she could visit them. So I was really fascinated by that because I couldn't wait to move like 900 miles away from my family. I was like, I have to go somewhere else and be like a time zone away from you. And I just was fascinated by this idea that trailers or mobile homes, they're mobile, like they're meant to be mobile. But my grandmother had literally never seen the ocean before. Like she'd never traveled probably more than 10 miles away, maybe 30 miles away from where she lived in Western North Carolina. So it was fascinating to me that these were mobile homes that like had the wheels taken off and they were cemented to a place. Yeah. And that if your trailer started to deteriorate, you would just buy a new trailer and put it in front of the old trailer, and then the old trailer became storage. I was really interested in not putting down roots and feeling like I was mobile and could go places, but I have extended family that are like, you know what, we're happy here and we don't need to go anywhere else. And so I was just kind of exploring that difference, I think, where I was like, I'm not like my family. So and so I've chronicled that and did probably 10 of these over the course of maybe 2 to 3 years. Yeah, so these are etchings with sheen collé, which is, the color is actually made by placing colored paper down on the plate during the printmaking process. So it's just black ink. So it's a single plate. It's, I call it lazy man's printmaking, but I love it because you can add multiple colors with one print run.